Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding and knowledge of this beautiful deed. We're beginning our subject of Aqeedah. Aqeedah, as it's mentioned here, Aqeedah. That is the subject for today. So please write that down. Make sure you write the dates. And so with all our assignments, when there's assignments, we want to remind you, make sure that you put your name and the dates, full name, and dates on your assignments when turning them in. Okay? So we're going over the subject of Aqeedah. And we mentioned before that Aqeedah, this is our contract, our creed that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what it is that we stand for, what it is that we believe. So as Muslims, we have to know what it is that we believe. Now, this is even real critical during these days and times, as it has always been. But this is just another wake-up time for us to really think, what is it that I believe? And so as a Muslim, am I really believing in Allah alone as my Lord, my Creator, my Sustainer, my Provider, the one who will make a way out for me when there's difficult times? So we have to understand this, especially when we're in a society and times where we have access to so much information. And so that information can be confusing, and it can be all bottled up in one nice bottle of confusion. And so it can lead us astray, and lead us into what's called shirk, which is the opposite of the subject of tawheed. The tawheed is what we're studying today. It's the opposite of that is shirk. So tawheed, we know what tawheed means. Tawheed means the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Okay? Everything that is considered worship should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is the meaning of tawheed. So tawheed Allah, the oneness of Allah azza wa jalla, هو إفراد الله سبحانه في ربوبيته وألوهيته وأسمائه وصفاته. So to single out Allah alone, there's none equal to Him. There's none that goes along with Him. He has no partners. لا شريك له وحده. He is alone. لا شريك له. Having no partners. So all of these things, these categories that we mentioned, so that we understand how to respond, how to believe, everything, this is exclusive for Allah. It doesn't belong to any other except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is just terms for us to know today. So قال الله ta'ala, and this is something that we want to remember and memorize this ayah. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقُ الرُّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّيهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِيهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. So this ayah, young brothers and sisters, I want you to memorize this ayah. وَمَنْ يشاقق الرسول من بعد ما تبين له الهدى ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين نوليه ما تولى ونصليه جهنم وساءت مصير. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the framework. He's giving us the framework of how we should be. The box that we should be in, so to speak. Because there's hudud. There's limitations for everything. Like we have borders of a city, borders of a state, borders of a country. Right? There are borders. Also, so there's like physical borders, and then there's also other borders of meaning limitations. For example, in the United States, we have the U.S. Constitution, right? And then along, so that governs a lot of things, but then the states have their own laws, cities have their own laws, and guess what? Wherever you live, you're responsible for those, for having knowledge of those. You're responsible. So you can't just say, oh, I didn't know. You live in the city of Milwaukee, for example, and they have night parking, and you can't park on the side of the street, and they catch you, they're going to give you a ticket. And you can't say, hey, I didn't know. Well, now you do. Pay the fine and don't do it next time. So you still have to what? Pay. There's punishment. So ignorance of a matter does not lift you from the responsibility. So you have to be knowledgeable about where you are and what you do at all times. And above all man-made laws and limitations, Allah has His hudud. He has His limitations. He has His constitution, and that is the Quran and the Sunnah. So all of what we need, the amendments and bills, everything is in the Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran is the framework, and the Prophet ﷺ clarifies and shows us what that means and how to live that out. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقُ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَ مِنْ بَعْدِ تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. So He says whoever they basically part from, argue with, oppose, go against the messenger. You go against the messenger. You give him difficult times after it has become clear to you what guidance is. وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرِ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and you follow a path other than the path of the believers. He says, نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمْ. We're going to give him what he wants. Man, we're going to also what? Make him to go into Jahannam. We seek refuge with Allah from going there. It's going to make you go into where? Jahannam. Going to be punished in Jahannam. And He said, وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. And what a evil and horrible end that is. A place that you will go. So we don't want to be of those who argue and go against the Messenger of Allah, to go against the guidance, the huda. We do not want to go against al-huda, the guidance, and follow and go against the way that the believers go and follow that guidance. We want to be upon the right guidance and be with the right group of people. So this is why we have to clarify and understand how to be with the right people and why I should be with the right people. That's why we have to understand our Aqeedah, our contract that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creed. So, ma ma'ana tawheed? What is the meaning of at-tawheed? So we already mentioned tawheed. At-tawheed, it is huwa ifradullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is singling out everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His rububiyyah, wa ilahiyah or uluhiyah, and asma'ihi or asma' wa sifat, His names and attributes. So we're talking about these three categories. So we have to know them. We have to know these three categories. Okay? So let's say them. Tawheed ar-rububiyyah. Tawheed ar-rububiyyah. Tawheed al-ilahiyah. Tawheed al-ilahiyah. Tawheed al-asma' was-sifat. Tawheed al-asma' was-sifat. So these three categories are what we're going to deal with. And so today we're just doing brief. What do they mean? So Tawheed al-rububiyyah. Tawheed al-rububiyyah, it is an ta'taqid anna Allah mutafarrid bil khalq wal rizq wal mulk wal tadbir wal in'am wal ihya wal imat and other than that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with regard to His Tawheed al-rububiyyah, Tawheed, the oneness in His rububiyyah, His lordship. He's a Rabb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is a there is no other Lord with Allah or like Allah. It's not like the improper terms that people give in this dunya, landlord. He owns that property. He's responsible for that property, right? You're a tenant there. You live there. But who's going to pay the taxes? He does. He might collect them, make the money from you, but he's responsible for paying the taxes to the city. He's responsible for the upkeep of that place, even though he may have you do it. He may say, part of your agreement of staying in my property, you have to do this and do this and do that. And you have to pay him for all of that. But then he's accountable to someone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is the Lord of everything that exists. And yet he is not responsible to anyone. He subhanahu wa ta'ala is not responsible to anyone. So he is the true Rabb. And because of that, we believe that he is the only one alone when it comes that deals with creation. There's no partners. La sharika lahu. He has no partners in creating. He created everything, fashioned everything, and gave it its fixed place and its time. So he is a Rabb because he is the creator. Al-Khaliq. And he is the Rabb, the Lord, because he is the one who provides the rizq. He provides everything that we need. He gave us this earth and everything that's in it, that we use it. He sent down the rain from the sky for our crops so we can eat, our animals to eat, we could drink. Everything Allah has created and placed in this earth for us to use. And he gave us the means and the minds and abilities to figure these things out. How to grow the crops, how to use the animals to help us, how to build machinery. All these things come from where? From Allah's earth. Did we just make them from ourselves? No. Everything that we have is because Allah created it, and we use it to build the things that we need for our survival. He gave us the ability to do those things. Now, and he is, with regard to al-Mulk, he's the king. He owns everything. He owns me. He owns you. He owns the believers. He owns the disbelievers. He owns the animals. He owns the water, the seas. Everything in existence, he owns. With regard to at-tadbir, he regulates everything. He manages everything. No one does it. No one has power to make a decision over his decision. Once he decrees something, that's it. No one can decree after him. Well, in'am, all the ni'mah, all the bounties, all the favors that we have come from Allah. And don't forget the best favor he gave us is al-Islam. Well, ihya, he's the one who brings things to life. He brings everything to life. He's the one who brought Adam alayhi salam, our father, to life. He's the one who brings each and every child born to life. Each and every child comes to life by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, imata, and he also is the one who takes life. And so we have to understand that everything belongs to Allah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Remember that. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to Allah, and to Allah we are returning. So we have to remember that. He brought us into this life. We're going to return to him. Meaning we're going to die, and then we're going to return to him, and we're going to be come back to life again. And that new life that we have actually, once the souls come out, the new life is eternal. The life we have in these bodies, this flesh we have, it's only temporary in this dunya. But that soul that you have is going to live. It doesn't die. It's going to live again. So it only is a temporary death in this world, and then we have a new life, and we'll be either in forever in the Jannah, or there'll be those who will be forever in the Nar. We seek refuge from Allah, with Allah, from being from the inhabitants of the Nar. Ameen. So he is the one who gives everything. And so while we're going through this current situation of the coronavirus, don't fear that. Don't fear that. I'm not saying don't be careful. I'm not saying do not wash your hands. Yes, wash your hands. That's what we should be doing always, right? Have some boundaries with people, right? Be respectful. If you feel sick, stay away from people. Yes, be cautious, as we should always be cautious. But at the end of the day, whatever is meant to come upon you is going to happen. Whatever is meant to miss you, it won't happen. So, who has power over all things? Allah. So turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him for whatever it is you need for your protection. And if so happen that it befalls you, be patient. Be patient and continue to praise Allah. Thank Him. Because while you're being patient with whatever illness, whatever hardship you're going through, it's the removal of the sins, and many that we have. It's also means of raising our levels to be in the highest places in Jannah. So do not lose patience. Do not lose control. That is what sabr means. To be able to restrain yourself. So do not lose control. Do not lose having the right understanding and being and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that He'll remove it if He wills, He'll keep it if He wills. So be patient during these times, brothers and sisters. Turn to Allah. Increase in your dua. Increase in dua. So make sujood, increase in dua. Get up in the middle of the night, pray tahajjud. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is our Rabb. So that is tawheed ar-rububiyyah. He is a Rabb. He's the Lord, the sustainer that takes care of everything. He owns everything. He created everything. He gave everything, us the ability to do everything that we need, right? Manages all those things. He's the true Rabb. Tawheed al-ilahiyah, this has to do that He is al-ilah. He is the God. Okay? And God, the meaning of God is a ma'bud, something that we worship. So some of the people who talk about Tawheed al-Ilahiyah, they also call it Ubudiyyah. Al-Ubudiyyah. So I want you to memorize these terms because you're going to be asked about them. Al-Ubudiyyah. Ubudiyyah. Meaning worship. Okay? So this is God. Godship, that He is the God. That He is the God. And the God is meant to be what? Worshipped. So everything that when we talk about Tawheed al-Ilahiyah is that we believe that He is al-Ma'bud bihaq. He is the only object, one that deserves to be worshipped in reality and truth. Alone, wahdahu la sharika lahu, and there's none other that should be worshipped. He has no partners that should be worshipped along with Him. Period. At all. Full stop. He is, yes, there are other false gods, but He is the only God, Allah. And a God is something that you worship, and people worship things other than Allah, unfortunately. They worship all their false gods. Whether it's money, whether it's ideologies, statues, people, their own selves. People worship many things. They worship wood. They worship rocks. They worship moon, stars. They believe and turn to these things for guidance, for help, for answers, for questions, instead of turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They fear those things, but they don't fear Allah. They rely and have confidence in those things, but they don't rely and have confidence in Allah. They trust in those things, but don't trust in Allah. So those are also considered worship, along with dua, supplicating, praying, slaughtering, making oaths. All that is worship, and that only belongs to Allah and none other. Not any of His creation, not an angel, not a prophet or a messenger. No righteous man or woman at all should we make dua to and call upon, dead or living. We should only call upon Allah and rely upon Allah. And then we can ask those who are near to us for assistance. But we know that whatever comes, it'll be coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and none other. So that's tawheed al-ilahiyyah. And the third is tawheed al-asma' wa sifat. Say it. Tawheed al-asma' wa sifat. Tawheed al-asma' wa sifat. Tawheed al-asma' wa sifat. So the tawheed al-asma', we know asma is the plural of ismun, right? Asma means names. Allah has names. Wasifat, and attributes, characteristics. And these names and attributes that we mentioned, that we're going to learn, inshallah, they are exclusive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So none can be called Ar-Rabb. None can be called Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, As-Salam, Al-Mu'min, Al-Muhaymin, Al-Alim, Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir. All those names belong to Allah alone. As-Sami', Al-Basir, Al-Alim, Al-Hakim, Al-Ghaffar, Al-Ghafur, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Those names and attributes belong to Allah. Can a person have Rahmah? No. But they can't be Ar-Rahman. They can be Abdul Rahman, Abdul Rahim, Abdul Ghafur, Abdul Nur, Abdul Sabur, Abdul Salam. But they cannot take the name with the definite Alif Lam with it. That is exclusive for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. We can have some characteristics and traits use those names, but they're nothing comparable to Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Laysa kamithlihi shay'un wa huwa as-sami'ul basir." Nothing is comparable to Allah. He is Sami', all hearing, and Basir. He sees all. Even though He hears and He sees, I hear, you hear, I see, we see. But our hearing, our sight is limited. Allah, He hears everything. Allah, He sees everything, unlimited. There's nothing escapes His knowledge. I have a little bit of knowledge. You have a little bit of knowledge. And if all of mankind and all jinn got together, their knowledge will not equal anything compared to what Allah knows. Not even a drop of the ocean. So He is Al-Alim. So we're not comparable to Allah. So even though we may understand what those things mean, and this is part of our Aqeedah, that we know what it means, and we do not make what's called tahrif, or ta'wil, or tamthil, or ta'til. We do not do those things with His names. We don't change the meaning. We do not try to interpret them into meaning this or that. We do not liken them to anything of His creation. Nor do we belittle His names or diminish the majesty of them and His attributes. We don't do that or deny them. So that is the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people of Sunnah the people who cling to the Jama'ah. This is the brief of our understanding. So we have to know these terms. Aqeedah, our creed. Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, that the oneness in His Lordship. There's no Lord along with Allah. Tawheed al-Ilahiyyah, the Tawheed, the oneness in His Godship. There's no other God. There's none other that we worship except Allah. Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat, and all those names that He's called Himself by, or described Himself by, or on the tongue of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, belong to Him and Him alone. And we cannot change them, nor try to interpret them in a certain way, or try to make similitude between them and His creation, or try to diminish their loftiness. Naqifun, we stop here. We take the notes, and the questions will be sent to you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.